Have the Patriots struck undrafted gold again? This is the Foxborough Report. I'm Alex Barth. He is Evan Lazar. We are brought to you today by 1 in 100. If you're looking for cheap Patriots tickets, Bruins tickets, Celtics tickets, or tickets to other events, you've got to check out 1in100.co. They can get you in the building for the price of a pizza or an ice-cold beer. Again, that's 1in100.co. Evan, J.C. Jackson, the undrafted corner out of Maryland. He's had a hell of a year. He makes the roster, extending that undrafted player, making the team stretch. He had Duke Dawson ahead of him, who was a high draft pick. Keon Crossan was a 7th-round pick, but he had some room to climb. And now the last couple of weeks, especially after that game against Minnesota, his name's being thrown out there a lot. The Patriots have a lot of success with undrafted corners. Jonathan Jones on the roster right now. Can even go back to Malcolm Butler. Is there a common thread in these guys? Is there, do you think, a certain thing that the Patriots identify, whether it's Jackson or Butler or Jones, or going all the way back to a guy like Sterling Moore, that they find this NFL talent on day 4 of the NFL draft?
Yeah, well, with Jones, Jonathan Jones, I think, is kind of an anomaly because he's such a small player. Like, he's like 5'8", 5'9", and he's been able to carve himself out of the role. But I think with J.C. Jackson and Malcolm Butler, the thing that they've been able to do is both of those guys were very highly touted high school prospects that just didn't really pan out at the college level. And sometimes that has a lot of factors. And J.C. Jackson was a guy that committed to Florida, played at Florida, then had some off-field issues that caused him to transfer to Maryland, and his career kind of got derailed in college as a result, but he always kind of knew that he had the talent. I mean, this was a 5-star prospect at a Florida, at the southern Florida down there, actually close to Miami, and he played receiver in high school and was an All-American receiver, also played both ways, played a little bit of corner, and he ended up being a corner in college, and then obviously a corner with the Patriots. So I think that to answer your question, I think it's really about kind of identifying guys that have the skill, that have the size, speed, combination, all the things that you would look for in the position, but that maybe in college just didn't have as easy of a go of it as some of the guys that are drafted on, day 3 or whatever.
Okay, so now talk to me about Jackson, because it's not just that he's been good, and he has been good, but it's that he's getting better. Bill Belichick talked about his coachability, and that you can see it. I mean, it's not that hard. If you go back, you watch the tape from earlier in the year versus now, he's a much better player now than he was. Remember, he had a tough game against the Bears earlier in the season, some other ones. What can you attribute his growth to?
Well, I think that I see 2 things on the tape. One thing is that he's clearly taking to coaching, and whether it's how the Patriots like to play guys in man coverage or zone coverage or whatever the case may be, you can tell that he's kind of taking to some of the coaching points that they have for their cornerbacks and then going and putting it on the field, which is what you always would want to see. And I think the other thing is that he's, remaining and still consistently playing to his strengths, but his eye discipline is a whole lot better than it has been in the last first month or so of the season, when he was getting a lot of penalties called against him, a lot of DPIs, a lot of grabbing and holding, because his eyes were sometimes wandering into the backfield in man coverage, and he was getting beat by double moves or delayed kind of route releases and that type of stuff. Now it seems to me more like he's seeing the field a whole lot better. The game has slowed down for him, and now he can kind of let his physical tools, his ball skills, his ability to track guys and on deep balls and stay sticky to guys in man coverage, and pass off guys in zone too. We saw that a little bit against Minnesota as well. All those things are great to see, and I think that's really where I've seen the most growth out of him.
Where is his ceiling at? Because you remember Malcolm Butler came in at one point, he was a top 10, maybe top 5 corner in the league. Obviously, he didn't leave on that standing, but he was a borderline all-pro guy. He was up there, named with the best of the best. Jackson, he's still behind Jason McCourty on the depth chart. He still has some room to work, but McCourty's contract's up next year. Obviously, Gilmore's here long-term, but is this just going to kind of be a niche thing? Will he be like a Jonathan Jones, a situational corner, or can he become that guy opposite Stephon Gilmore for the next couple of years?
I think that he can be a top 3 guy. And in today's NFL, you need 3 guys, right? Because you're in nickel so much, and teams are in 3 wide receiver, 11 personnel so much too on offense, that you really need 3 guys at that cornerback spot. And you need a slot guy, but you also need 2 outside guys, obviously. And I think what we saw against Minnesota is that JC's ability to come in and play the outside allowed Jason McCourty to bump into the slot against Adam Thielen and kind of move around as a kind of a matchup player with Thielen with those brackets and things of that nature, when you put, Gilmore either on whatever you want to count, Diggs 1A, 2, whatever you want to call him. So I think that the good thing for the Patriots is that JC is clearly a guy that can be in that top 3 going forward and can play on the outside and allow Gilmore and Jason McCourty to go game plan specific into a matchup like, against Diggs and Thielen, like against Juju Smith-Schuster and Antonio Brown in a couple weeks. To have that other option on the outside to take that third guy is going to be big.
Real quick before we wrap it up here, I do want to talk about another name we mentioned, and that's Keon Cross. And he was a draft pick, so you would imagine that originally going in, they had him higher ranked than Jackson. In the preseason, it seemed like he was going to be the guy to get the nod. Now, he did deal with some injuries and this and that, but where's he been and what's his role on this team right now? Where can that go? How's that draft?
Yeah, he reminds me a lot of Jonathan Jones, a smaller corner, definitely, that I think is just absolutely tested outside the roof in all the pro days and combines.
That was the whole thing, is he was a freak athlete.
He was, watching him on tape, and I've said this a lot in the past, he was one of the fastest guys I've ever seen in the college level, especially last year at the college level. He was as fast as anybody. I mean, you watch some of the tape and the way that he would track guys down from behind, from across the field, or he would recover, from out of phase and get hands on the ball or something like that, diving, pass breakups in the end zone and some crazy stuff that on that college tape. But the issue was that it wasn't at quite as high of a level as some of these other guys. He was an FCS guy, excuse me. So he had a big jump when he came to the NFL, whereas a guy, that played at the FBS level for a Power 5 school or something like that was already playing against very high competition like Jackson at Maryland. So I think that the big thing for Crossan is that this is a much bigger jump in competition for him. So maybe it takes a little bit longer. But on special teams, he's contributed a little bit. I think that in terms of what he does on defense, this is kind of like a redshirt year where he's kind of just learning and getting up to speed with the speed of the NFL game, because maybe he hasn't faced that kind of competition yet.
Now, what have you thought of J.C. Jackson so far this year, and do you think the Patriots have maybe found that second outside corner opposite Stephon Gilmore going forward? Let us know in the comments down below or on Twitter @PatriotsCLNS, and of course, for more coverage, clnsmedia.com. This has been the Foxborough Report. It is brought to you by 1in100. Check them out online at 1in100.co for Patriots tickets, Celtics tickets, and more. Again, that's 1in100.co. For Evan Lazar, I'm Alex Barth from Gillette Stadium. Thanks for watching.